endometrial cycle refers to the cyclic changes occurring in the endometrium during active reproductive period in females. These cyclic changes in the endometrium are brought about by the cyclic production of two hormones, estrogen and progesterone, by the ovaries. Before all, let us get some basic idea about these two hormones. Hypothalamus synthesize and secrete gonadotropin releasing hormone, that is GnRH. It acts on anterior pituitary gland to release two hormones, FSH, that is follicle stimulating hormone, and LH, that is luteinizing hormone. FSH helps in the growth of the ovarian follicles, which in turn release estrogen. LH maintains the corpus luteum, which secretes progesterone. Now, let's start endometrial cycle. It is mainly divided into three phases. First, menstrual phase, 1st to 5th day. Second, proliferative phase, 6th to 14th day. And third, secretory phase, 15th to 28th day. Menstrual phase is also called the bleeding phase. Its average duration is 3 to 5 days. At the end of menstrual cycle, corpus luteum degenerates. So, before 24 hours of the end of menstrual cycle, there is sharp decline in progesterone and estrogen levels. Uterus lining, which was prepared for implantation and was maintained by the high levels of progesterone, starts to shed due to the necrosis of stratum functionale of the endometrium. Blood vessels of the endometrium starts to rupture. Ruptured blood vessels along with debris flows out of vagina as menstrual bleeding. During this phase, two-thirds of the superficial endometrium is shed off and only a thin basal layer is left behind.
After the menstrual phase marks the beginning of proliferative phase. The proliferative phase of endometrium cycle is from day 6 to 14th day. As it follows the menstrual phase, only a thin basal layer of original endometrium is left. Estrogen is the main hormone that is responsible for changes in the endometrium during this phase. Proliferative phase coincides with the follicular phase of ovarian cycle. The changes in endometrium which occur during this phase are: the thickness of endometrium increases to 3 to 4 millimeters at the end of proliferative phase. Angiogenesis in stratum functionale leads to proliferation of blood vessels which become spiral arterioles. Endometrium glands are stimulated to grow, which contains glycogen, but they are non-secretory.
After the proliferative phase, there is ovulation. Prior to ovulation, there is increase in the levels of the estrogen. On the day of the ovulation, there is a LH surge, that is sudden increase in the levels of the luteinizing hormone. It causes the egg to be released from the ovary.
The secretory phase, also known as luteal phase, is the second half of menstrual cycle following the proliferative phase and plays a crucial role in preparing endometrial lining for potential embryo implantation. This phase typically occurs after ovulation, around 15 to 28 days of the 28-day cycle. During the secretory phase, the corpus luteum, formed from the ruptured follicle after ovulation, becomes a key player. The corpus luteum induces progesterone, a hormone that is pivotal for the secretory changes of endometrial lining. Progesterone promotes growth of blood vessels and glands in endometrial lining, creating a nutrient-rich environment to support a potential embryo. Estrogen, which was predominant during the proliferative phase, continues to play a role during the secretory phase. However, its levels decreases initially and then increases under the influence of progesterone. This cyclical interplay between estrogen and progesterone levels help maintaining endometrial lining's optimal condition for embryo implantation. In addition to them, inhibin, that is also produced by corpus luteum, plays a role in the cycle by regulating the levels of follicle stimulating hormone, that is FSH. Inhibin exerts negative feedback on FSH, preventing the development of new follicles during this phase. In the events of fertilization, if embryo successfully implants into the prepared endometrial lining, it releases human chorionic gonadotropin, that is HCG, thus maintains corpus luteum and prevents its degeneration, which in turn sustains the production of progesterone, ensuring continuous support and maintenance of endometrial lining. As a result, menstruation is averted and pregnancy progresses. If fertilization does not occur, the corpus luteum degenerates, causing decline in both estrogen and progesterone levels. This hormonal drop triggers the onset of menstruation and marks the beginning of new menstrual cycle. In summary, the secretory phase involves the corpus luteum secreting progesterone, which in conjugation with estrogen induces changes in endometrial lining to make it receptive for implantation. The delicate timing and balance of these hormones are crucial for the success of the reproductive process.
Here is the graphical representation of various hormones that play role in endometrial cycle. There are three important points that help to understand the endometrial cycle graph. First, moderate level of estrogen will decrease the level of GnRH, which in turn decrease the level of LH and FSH. High level of estrogen will increase the level of GnRH, LH and FSH. High level of progesterone will decrease the level of GnRH, LH and FSH. At the initial phase of endometrial cycle, there are low level of all the hormones. At 13th day, there is a high level of estrogen as shown in the diagram due to developing follicles, which lead to increase the level of LH and FSH. On the 14th day, very high level of LH will occurs, which is called as LH surge. LH surge will induce rupture of Graafian follicle. After that, there is a formation of corpus luteum. Corpus luteum will secrete estrogen and mainly the progesterone hormone. Corpus luteum is maintained by LH. In secretory phase of endometrial cycle, the level of progesterone and estrogen will increase due to the corpus luteum. That high level of progesterone will decrease the level of LH and FSH as seen in the graph.